You must stop trying to resolve everything into clear terms or in clear definition. Because if you're like me, and you are, if you've had success or achievement at any level, if things have worked out for you to whatever degree in life, especially if they worked out early and worked out big, and you are now at this stage where you're struggling to figure out who you are and what you should do and what you're doing, your brain is constantly trying to resolve matters definitely. You hate being in a place where suddenly you don't know what is going on. You like to have plans. You want to know what you're doing. Show me what I am supposed to be doing and let me run at it. I'm not lazy. Just show me what I'm supposed to be doing and I will hit that thing 180 miles an hour, 220 miles an hour. So your brain, consciously and unconsciously, will be trying to resolve this confusion into definite articles all the time. When you are awake, when you are asleep. It's why your sleep has been impacted. It's probably why you're not sleeping well. It's probably why you have insomnia. It's probably why your sleep has left. I dealt with this for years. For example, when I was in that wilderness, I almost ran crazy trying to resolve things definitely. I completely exhausted myself until I learned what I am now telling you, what I'm now teaching you. The most important thing that we can do for ourselves to manage this season effectively is to develop what is known as if you've truly made the right move for your life or your career, or if you were situated in the right place, the place you knew that you needed to be, and then suddenly everything just turned upside down, how do you survive that trying period? Even when you know you made the right move or you're in the right place and everything just stops working. Because at some point in our lives, for most of us, because again, I've been told that there are people who just sail through life without problems. But for most of us, at some point, typically between the ages of 40 to 60, when we're between 40 and 60, we're going to come to a place of profound confusion, a place of disorientation where our lives and our career momentum, or both of them, it just falls off sharply. This period in our lives that is characterized by confusion, disorientation, a lack of clear direction, a lack of confidence, a lack of clear ideas, and just overwhelming frustration. How do we not only survive this painful and difficult period, but how do we also thrive? How do we thrive for our minds in that season? Because the truth is that this confusing place that you find yourself right now, this place of disorientation, which we've referred to as a figurative wilderness, this place is supposed to be a blessing. It's not a curse. It will either make us or break us. It's like God being both refuge and stumbling stone. The same reality can either build us up or break us down, depending on how we respond. And the children of Israel, whose story we have used and we're going to keep using, they are a great example. The challenges that they faced in the wilderness during the Exodus, those challenges were supposed to be a blessing, a blessing in disguise, if you will. That period in the wilderness was supposed to be a period of courtship with God. It was a period of courtship. That was their opportunity to know God. Remember, these people had been slaves for some 400 years and they didn't have a sense of national identity. They had no gods of their own, they lacked national pride and so on. Because back in those days, the number of gods that a nation had was the proof of their power and prosperity and national influence. They had a god for rain, a god for this, a god for that, and so on. So the more your gods, the more powerful your nation. And these guys had none. They didn't have a single god. All they had was the mentality of slaves. So this wilderness period was supposed to be the time where the challenges that they faced were supposed to burn away their slave mentality and replace it with that of a nation of conquerors under God, a nation of champions under God. It's why Apostle Paul says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So they were going through a process of being renewed, of being transformed through the renewing of their mind, through the painful experiences of the wilderness. Because the reality of life is that even though all of us would wish it was not that way, the reality is that our minds don't just get renewed by deciding to renew them. The human creature has not evolved that way. Our minds don't get renewed in comfort. We don't learn in comfort. The only way that we learn at the highest and the deepest levels and change fundamentally is by facing challenges and going through seasons of fire and suffering. There are many things in life that we can and we should learn from the experience of others. But the kind of change that changes us at a fundamental level and renews our minds, we cannot learn that from a book or from a message or from watching YouTube or from the experience of others or from listening to sermons. Okay? We learn that from going through wilderness seasons. And that's why we say in Ajawa that ìyà ò jẹ ọ́ ọlọ́gbọ́n tantísàrẹ. Ìyà ò jẹ ọ́ ọlọ́gbọ́n tantísàrẹ. You claim to have wisdom and yet you've suffered nothing. You can tell us nothing you've been through. How? So where did you learn wisdom? Who taught you wisdom? Right? And then even the Bible says that Jesus learned obedience through the things he suffered. And that is Jesus. So let nobody fool you, because I have heard it said that a wise person or a child of God learns from the experience of others or from instruction, from the direct instruction of God, and does not have to experience suffering or trials to learn. Yes, that is true, but it is incomplete. It is true that in most areas of our lives, we don't have to experience every single thing by ourselves. We don't live nearly long enough for that. We don't have time to experience everything in every single area. But at the highest and the deepest levels of our lives, where destiny and purpose are fulfilled and intersect, where we come into the knowledge of ourselves and the truths about our lives, we are not going to learn that from the experience of others or from reading books or anything. Nobody has lived your life. Nobody has walked your path before you. So it is impossible to learn perfectly by just observing the experience of others or even by being instructed by God. The experience of others is valuable. The instruction of God is priceless. That you can decipher the instruction of God, priceless. It is one of the greatest results you can ever have. But those things will only guide and support us through the wilderness that we all must walk if we're going to fulfill purpose. By themselves, they cannot teach us all we need to know and forge us into the people we need to become. Me, I have decided that the one thing that I won't be doing is adding to my stress level. And you should do the same too. So as a business owner, save yourself the stress of trying to manage and balance your books and leave it to the experts, to the professionals at Finserve Pro. They will help you organize your books, track your expenses, and keep you ready for tax season while you focus on what is important, growing your business. And get this, they've got certified QuickBooks Pro advisors on the team to ensure your bookkeeping is up to standard. So whether you're running a business or hosting a talk show, or bookkeeping, or you need bookkeeping boosting, just call Finserve Pro. Let the professionals handle it for once. The professionals who are on your side. So now let's get into understanding how to effectively navigate these frustrating periods of our lives where we feel confused and we are grasping for answers as to which directions to go in life. You see, there are two mountains in life. The first mountain is the mountain of youth and ambition. This is the mountain onto which we are all born. It's that our endless and youthful hunger and desire for the things of youth, for wealth, for power, for applause, for sex, for relevance, for pleasure, for fame, and so on. In today's world, for Instagram likes, TikTok followers, Facebook page follows, YouTube subscribers, YouTube views, Twitter retweets, and so on. It is that mountain where you're showing off your jewelry, your watches, your cars, your fine clothes, how you're flying first class and private jets, and your beautiful wife and your husband, a handsome family, your handsome husband, your beautiful kids, the food you are eating, how you went to Formula One, just showing out. That is typical first mountain behavior. And here's the thing, it's not wrong. It's not evil. The first mountain is not wrong. That behavior is okay on the first mountain. In fact, it is necessary when it is done in its own season. It's where we build our identity, our reputation, our sense of self, and what makes us different from other people foundationally. It's our foundation for self-identity. is where we discover our strengths and our weaknesses on an elementary level. As Father Richard Rohr put it, it is where we build our container. But once we have a container, once we've defined the edges or the shape of our life, the container, we must ask, what is this container meant to contain? Now that I have a general sense of who I am and where I am headed in life, how do I really make it count? So that I'm not just here today and gone tomorrow without really leaving any indelible footprints in the annals of time. That question is the beginning of the second mountain. The second mountain is the mountain of elders. And elder here does not mean age, it means wisdom. There are young people who are elders and there are old fools too. I'm sure you've met a few old fools. The second mountain is where we begin to understand significance, where we begin to ask not how much can I acquire or how much can I get financially, not how many people can I sleep with, not how am I going to pepper them on Instagram today, how am I going to show them that I'm doing well, how am I going to show my enemies and the people who thought I would never make it, how am I going to show them out? We begin to ask questions like, what is my life even supposed to be about? What impact am I having? Is it this thing that I am doing now that I'll still be doing when I am 70, when I'm 65, 70, 75? Is that even feasible? How can I pivot to make sure that the rest of my life and career don't just spiral out and die? If I drop dead today, beyond what they will see on Instagram for just a few days, all the people who will put up pictures that we took together, what have I left in terms of enduring impact? If I died, who would truly miss me who is not related to me beyond my family? Who would miss me? And perhaps most importantly, what is this feeling of emptiness and restlessness and frustration that I have inside me that just keeps growing, getting louder and won't leave me alone? Getting to this second mountain is what Apostle Paul meant when he said, when I was a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. That is the second mountain. And the tragedy, the great tragedy, is that most people don't even know that it exists at all. They live and they die on the first mountain. And then they wonder why. After a while, things are not just working out the way they used to. The older they grow, the slower things become. Other people sense the call. They know there's a second mountain, but they cannot let go. The applause is too sweet. The spotlight is too addictive. The power is too intoxicating. Their influence on social media is too pleasurable. And so, even when life has moved on, they stay behind, still fighting. They're fighting to be as relevant and as impactful as they used to be. They are remembering old seasons and they want to remain there. Like Samson, who did not know that the spirit had left him. And this is why you see, for example, entertainers, old men in skinny jeans, old women still competing with their daughters' age mates for the attention from the opposite sex, still chasing yesterday's glory. Now, don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong with performing at any age if it is truly your calling at that point, if it's what you're supposed to be doing, if you're doing it from the second mountain, if you've transcended the base desire to perform for just purely selfish reasons. But the reality is this: many of the people who still perform in their old age should have shifted. By now, they should be speaking or performing from the elder mountain, but they are still chasing the pleasures of the first mountain. But here is the thing: whether or not you heed the call of life, or the call of the universe, or the call of God, when it begins to call you to leave your first mountain, whether or not you heed it, you will eventually be forced off that first mountain and face the wilderness that is between the first and the second. Life always calls. It calls every one of us. At some point, life will demand that you leave the things of youth behind. The first mountain of ambition and ego and public validation and pleasure and all of that, and journey towards the second mountain of purpose, wisdom, and identity. And between those mountains, between both mountains, there is always a wilderness. There is a gap between Egypt and the promised land. You don't go from peak to peak. You must first be transformed in the valley. And those who go willingly with preparation, with instruction, with inner guidance, with the support of God, they come out stronger. Now, let me be clear. When I say you go willingly, you don't exactly go willingly. And we're going to talk about that on some other video, right? When life is taking you through the wilderness from the first mountain to the second mountain, even when you go willingly, life plays tricks on you. God doesn't show you everything. He shows you the beginning and the end, but doesn't show you the suffering. Otherwise, you will not go. So when I say those who go willingly, I don't mean they go willingly into suffering. None of us know that there's going to be suffering in the middle. If we did, we would never leave. Willingly here refers to the fact that yes, you've seen that there's another mountain, you've seen that there's another end, you've seen that there's another level, and you willingly embark on the journey to that end. You're not willingly embarking on suffering. Let's be clear about that. So those who willingly go, willingly as we've said, they come out stronger. They emerge as elders with identity and wisdom. Those who refuse to go, life eventually forces them out of their current season anyways, because no season lasts forever. As we say in Ajawa, Igbalani enikan ololi ayegbo, which means that seasons shift. Nobody owns seasons forever. Life moves. Nobody is on top forever. And when life forces you into the wilderness because you refuse to move, the danger is that you enter unprepared. And when you enter unprepared, the wilderness can consume you. Not because God is being punitive, not because life is punishing you, not because the universe is vindictive, but because you didn't build the internal strength required to survive the transition. There is a lot of power in choosing something willingly than you eventually being forced into it anyways. Those who choose willingly are given the mindset and the strength to survive the journey. Those who resist usually die in the wilderness. So this video is for 3 types of people, and all 3 should count themselves fortunate. Class 1, you are at the stage where things that used to work no longer work as they used to. You feel confused, disoriented, that is life calling you to leave your first mountain and begin the journey to the second mountain. The second class of people, you heard the call already. You obeyed and you are already in the wilderness. Things are hard now. You never saw this hardship coming and you're regretting. Nothing is predictable. Well, congratulations. You are the most powerful group. You left willingly and you will reach your promised land soon. Just keep on keeping on. The third class, you heard the call long ago or some time ago, but you refused it. Things were too sweet and life has now forced you into the wilderness. Anyways, you feel lost, overwhelmed, shaken, forsaken. You too, congratulations. You still have hope. Even though you didn't live where you should have, you still have hope. The only people who die in the wilderness are those who refuse to admit that they are in one. They keep hustling and deceiving and pretending and trying to survive with old tactics. But the fact that you're watching this means that you are not in denial. That means that there's hope. So congratulations. All 3 classes, all 3 groups of people have one thing in common. We are all in the wilderness and we must survive it. Whether you came willingly, whether it's life that forced you there, we're all there. And we're not just here to endure the wilderness, we are here to thrive in the wilderness, as improbable as that sounds. So the question is, how do we not only survive this season? How do we not just endure? How do we thrive? And that is the key that I'm about to give you now. The truth is that the only thing that we can do in this season is to just wait. Yes, wait. The only way to make sure that we thrive in this season and to not die in the wilderness is to trust that everything will be okay in the end and embrace the concept of patience. Patience. In other words, the only thing that will solve this current problem, this current confusion, this current frustration is time. Time. That's it. The only thing that you or I can do to solve this problem of the confusion and the frustration and the pain and all we're dealing with in this season is embracing patience and trusting that with time, this season and the issues that come with it will not only resolve themselves on their own, but will do so powerfully and in our favor. And so, of course, the question you will ask at this point, what you will likely say is, well, if that is the case, then why am I watching this now? You are just telling me there's nothing I can do and I should just be patient. Why am I watching this? Why do I need any guidance? You have not told me anything now. Well, as anticlimactic as it sounds, let me put it to you this way. Have you ever heard that time heals all wounds? Literally, if you bruise any part of your body today, if you bruise your hand, over time, time will heal it, yes? Then why do you bother treating it? Why do you wash it and disinfect it and put iodine or spirit or purple on it and then plaster it and bandage it and generally care for it every day until it heals? Why don't you just say, well, time will heal it and ignore it? Exactly. The fact that time will sort something out does not mean that we are absolved of our responsibilities. And that's why you're watching this. That's why we come together like this. While the truth is that time will eventually show us the way, and time will get us out of this wilderness, and that there is nothing we can do to get out on our own, there are things that we can and should do to manage this season effectively, just like we're treating a wound. We walk with time. We're not just waiting for time. So that when the time comes and life gets ready to bring us out of the wilderness and to the edge of the metaphorical promised land, we're ready to take it. That was the problem with the first generation of Israelites. They didn't walk with God. They didn't walk with the time they spent in the wilderness. They spent all of that time just complaining and griping and looking back and finding shortcuts, so that when God finally brought them to the edge of the promised land, they were not ready to take it. They hadn't managed that season well or effectively, so that their minds had not been renewed by the things that they went through. That is what I don't want for you and I. So we must walk with time in this season of frustration and confusion. And I will give you a powerful secret and tool to do so. I will give you that powerful secret in just a few minutes. But first, I still want us to really understand the power of time. I want us to stay in this concept of time for just 1 more minute, because most of us have not been taught to really value time, especially from the part of the world from which we come. That is why we disrespect it and show up to places and appointments and events and whatsoever. We show up late and then we proudly say that we are working on African time. Yes, it is African time. It's not a problem. You have heard them say that your greatest resource in life is time. They've said it. They weren't lying. They were right. In almost every area of our lives, in fact, I make bold to say that in all areas of our lives, if we could manipulate or produce time, we would solve all our problems. If you could either go back in time or you could produce more time, not only would you solve all your problems, you will become the richest person in history by a mile, by a country mile. So please do not underestimate the value of what I'm telling you right now, which is why I want us to sit here for just a few more seconds. When they tell you time is your greatest resource, you need to understand what they mean. Because what you need to understand is that in this season of your life, if you're patient with the right attitude and you do the proper things proactively, time will sort you out by itself. So the key here is patience. And I could end this video here and you would have had your data and your time's worth. The data and the time that you spend watching this, you would have had its worth. Because the truth is that if it is God or life or the universe who is training you and preparing you for the next level, there is nothing you can do in that wilderness season except to be patient. In fact, patience is one of the fruits that God wants to develop in you. That's why you are in that season and you seem to be stuck. And until you develop and embrace patience, you're not going to get out. You're going to keep repeating the class. There is nobody who can get you out until you're done. It's like when you're cooking, when you're making food, you don't take the rice off the fire because it is boiling. You don't stop pounding the yam because the pestle and the mortar are making noise and the yam is being mashed. I can imagine the yam too is screaming. If the beans isn't done, you don't take the beans off the fire because it is getting squashed and mashed together. The food is not done, it's not done. And if you don't like the imagery of food that I'm using, maybe you think it makes you feel as if someone is going to consume you after you are done. Then let us use the imagery of the goldsmith and the fire. The goldsmith does not take the gold out of the fire simply because the gold is melting and it is getting black. He doesn't take it out until the impurities are completely out of the gold and he is satisfied that the gold is ready to be worked on for the next level. So that's where we are. That's why we need to understand and sit in time. So this thing that I've told you that just seems normal. Most of us don't actually understand the power of time. When they say time is our greatest resource, they mean it. As long as you have time, you're powerful. As Chief Commander Ebenezer Obey sang, Bemie Bashimbe ìrètí ẹ kò tán, ìrètí ẹ kò tán o láyé ẹ o, ìrètí ẹ kò tán o dájúdájú, dájúdájú. As long as you are alive and you are well and you have time, you have everything, there is no way that you are hopeless. You are not even close to being hopeless. But as I have said, while there is nothing that we can do to get us out until the Creator's appointed time, there are certain things that we must do to manage this season effectively. And the most important one, and we have now come to the crux of this video, the most important thing that we can do for ourselves to manage this season effectively is to develop what is known as negative capability. Negative capability. So what is negative capability? This is the development of the powerful mindset where you not only learn to live with not knowing what is going to happen to you or where life is taking you or what is next, but you get comfortable with that feeling of not knowing. It is the equivalent of driving on a road with a GPS map system. Maybe it's your phone or your inbuilt system in your car, and then the device suddenly loses all signal. But you keep going without panicking, just being assured that in the end, you're not only going to arrive at the destination, but you're going to arrive in a better state and position than you initially thought or planned. And the development of this mindset, negative capability, is not easy, especially if you're a go-getter, if you're a striver, a person who wants success or believes that success is yours either because you're used to success or you expect success. You always want to be sure of what you're doing and what's next. You want goals and objectives and plans and the reasons for doing what you're doing. This is the project that I am working on. This is why I'm doing it. And this is what I expect to get out of it and all of that. Well, you can forget about all of that during this season. All of that knowing, all of that being sure. You can forget about all of that during this period. In fact, that's one of the lessons that life is trying to teach you. You will have to be comfortable with living with not knowing where you're going. And that is what it means to have faith in practical terms. That's the lesson you're trying to learn, or one of the lessons anyways. That having done what I knew I needed to do, or what I suspected strongly that I needed to do, that even when things are not clear, even when I'm confused, when I'm not on solid ground, I need to be confident that all of this will make sense at some point, as long as I keeping on. Consider the King Sunny Ade song that I sang a couple of videos ago, that masterpiece. Ẹ̀ṣù biribiri kẹ́bò mi o, bíwájú lọ́lọ́kọ ìwà mi lọ. Bẹ̀yìn lọ́lọ́kọ ìwà mi lọ, mi ò mọ̀ yé o, mi ò mọ̀. That's a perfect example. A man who did not know whether his fortunes in life were progressing or regressing still had enough strength of character and purpose to go into the studio and release a masterpiece about that very problem. About the fact that he didn't know what was going on with his life and purpose in some critical areas. That is the dictionary definition of if life gives you lemons, then you make lemonade. You and I, if it was you and I in that position, we might have been curled up in bed, just refusing to go out, just depressed. Or alternatively, running all over the place, looking for answers, going here and going there, praying, fasting, doing all of that, just looking for answers. Instead, King Sunny Ade did exactly what King Solomon counsels us to do. King to king. King Sunny Ade did what King Solomon tells us to do. Whatever your hands find to do, do it with all your might. You might not be where you think you need to be, and you might not have an understanding of where you are presently, but whatever your job is at this point, whatever your vocation is, you must give it your best. So that's the first part of negative capability. Not having a clear direction in life or career in this moment and being comfortable with it, being comfortable with not knowing. The second big part of developing negative capability, which is closely linked to the first, is that you must stop trying to resolve everything into clear terms or in clear definition. Because if you're like me, and you are, if you've had success or achievement at any level, if things have worked out for you to whatever degree in life, especially if they worked out early and worked out big, and you are now at this stage where you're struggling to figure out who you are and what you should do and what you're doing, your brain is constantly trying to resolve matters definitely. You hate being in a place where suddenly you don't know what is going on. You like to have plans. You want to know what you're doing. Show me what I am supposed to be doing and let me run at it. I'm not lazy. Just show me what I'm supposed to be doing and I will hit that thing 180 miles an hour, 220 miles an hour. So your brain, consciously and unconsciously, will be trying to resolve this confusion into definite articles all the time. When you are awake, when you are asleep. It's why your sleep has been impacted. It's probably why you're not sleeping well. It's probably why you have insomnia. It's probably why your sleep has left. I dealt with this for years. For example, when I was in that wilderness, I almost ran crazy trying to resolve things definitely. Am I supposed to be a pastor? Okay, I'm supposed to be a pastor because I understand the Bible. I can break it down. I understand it in ways that, with all due respect, even people who went to the seminary don't. Then next thing, no, I'm not supposed to be a pastor. I'm supposed to be an evangelist or a preacher. I can't do church. I can't do all this church politics and all these other funny things that they do. I can't do that. I can't do that. Let me just start preaching. I will just start preaching from place to place. No, that's not it. That's not it. Aha! I'm supposed to be a lawyer. Yes, because that's what I was supposed to be when I was younger. I wanted to be a lawyer before life interrupted with entertainment. Everybody who met me as a child said this boy is going to be a lawyer. He can argue, he's articulate, he's precocious. No, that's not it. No. I studied insurance in the University of Lagos, and they said they are making a lot of money in insurance now in the United States. And I was good in insurance. So maybe life has come back full circle now, and I should go and do insurance. No, that's not it. I can't be begging people to buy insurance now. I will not be an insurance salesman. They'll say, look at Teju Babyface. He's not selling insurance. I know I'm supposed to be an actor. I did Diamond Ring. I played the lead role in Diamond Ring, and the movie was huge. Everybody loved me. They still ask me till today, why don't you act anymore? I will start being an actor. Let me reach out to my acting friends. And so on and so forth. I did that for years and I completely exhausted myself. Until I learned what I am now telling you, what I'm now teaching you. You must develop negative capability, the ability to leave things alone when things don't seem to make sense. Don't try to resolve it. Don't try to force it into something. Don't try to be a lawyer or a pastor or an engineer or an actor or a musician or whatever. Just leave it. Stop trying to resolve your life when life is trying to teach you lessons. Of course, and we've mentioned this, it goes without saying that this doesn't mean that you should be irresponsible and lazy. Whatever your hands find to do, do it well. We've said that already. Do stuff. Feed your family. Hustle. If you must go out and get a job, do that. But this concept of your life and your meaning and your purpose, stop trying to make stuff fit into established boxes. What if what you're going to be at the end of this wilderness, what if it is the first of a kind, the first of your kind? What if what you're going to be doesn't exist yet in a form that you or I or anybody in the world would recognize? What if you're a first? Because once I figured out what I am telling you here, it began to occur to me that what I was going to be does not exist in the world. And I say that with all humility. What I'm doing now does not exist. I mean, you think about it. Where will you get this? Where I will sing Yoruba songs for you and quote the Bible and talk Yoruba proverbs and talk about what the people of Ajawa do. It has some adjacency with what some other people who give us value. It has adjacency and it rubs shoulders with what some other people do. There are political opinion leaders, pastors, motivational speakers, inspiration speakers, psychologists, social psychologists, authors, and so on. But nobody is quite doing what I am doing. That is because nobody has my history. Nobody has my experiences. Nobody has my epiphanies, my giftings, my capabilities, my talents, my passions, the views that have shaped me, the home that I come from, and nobody has yours too. So in that sense, you and I, what I'm doing right now, this is the first of its kind. And this is why some people struggled and are still struggling with what we're doing here. They are trying to fit me into a box that does not exist. Teju Babyface is an actor now, and he's a comedian, and he has a talk show host. They are trying to fit me. So that when we started, somebody commented, are you going to be a marriage counselor now? This your soft launch. This soft launch that you are trying to do into marriage counseling is not good though, or something to that banal effect. to that level of banality. When I told them that I was going to be a marriage counselor, is beyond me. Or have I now told you that I am this or that? Have I introduced myself to you as a marriage counselor or a preacher or a pastor? I speak, you hear. When you speak, I understand. Ọ̀rọ̀ wa ti yéra, idea lójú. So you must do that too. Apart from being comfortable with not knowing what is going to happen next, you must stop trying. You must resist the urge, and it's a powerful urge. If you're very brilliant and intelligent, you must resist the urge to try to resolve everything into a definite box, into a definite recognized box and title. As the Bible says, it does not appear yet what we shall be. And even though the primary context of that verse was different, we can borrow it and work it effectively here. We don't know yet what you are going to be. You don't know. I don't know. Nobody knows. Which is why you should always be wary of people, careful around people who tell you this is what you're meant to be. Run away from people who tell you they have seen your future spiritually or otherwise. And if you don't develop negative capability and you are trying to figure out and resolve everything per time, you will keep running to those people for advice. People whom you think know better than you do. People who seem to have their own life together. And it is a mirage. It is all a mirage. Now me they tell you. Nobody has all of their life figured out. Everybody whom you see, including the people whom you respect the most for their thought leadership and their brilliance and their career success, there is at least one area. What will be one area? There are areas of their lives where even they need help that they are trying to figure out. Nobody knows everything about everything. Anybody who knows about everything is called God. We are masters in some areas and then we are initiates or novices in others. Including me when follow you they talk, including I who is speaking to you. Of course, there are still areas of my life that I'm trying to figure out, and that's okay. The problem comes when we run to other people and we think they know everything about everything simply because they know everything about some things. And if you keep doing that, they will take advantage of you, because human beings have evolved to take advantage of the vulnerabilities of other people and other creatures. If you keep coming to me for advice and help, if you're a lost adult and whatever I tell you, you are back next week and you are back next month on the same issue, there's no problem asking me about different issues. But if you keep going round and round on this same issue, ati walenu kini for over a year, eventually I'm either going to weary of you or I'm going to start taking advantage of you either consciously or unconsciously, because you have ceded your agency to me. Now, this does not mean that you should not seek advice, especially when you're a younger person. We all need advice. One tree does not a forest make. But there comes a point in life where you must begin to stand in the confidence of your own counsel, whether or not you are sure of its veracity or its correctness. Whether you are wrong or not, it does not matter. And that age is around 40, circa 40. When you're 40 or a few years past 40, definitely by the time you're 50, you must have figured out how to stand in the power of your own decisions and your own counsel. It's why they say that a fool at 40 is a fool forever. You shouldn't be a 47-year-old man running around after mentors, a 48-year-old woman running around after mentors. Daddy, what am I supposed to do, sir? Yes, ma'am. What am I supposed to do, ma'am? No. You should spend your 20s and your 30s sitting at the feet of mentors and guides and learning. But once you get to 40, 41, 42, 43, you should have learned enough from them and from life to stand on your own and stand in and by your own decisions. For better or for worse, whether you are right or wrong is immaterial. Again, just for emphasis, this does not mean you shouldn't ask some other people for advice, including close friends. As you grow older, you will know the value of having real close, genuine friends whose intellect and whose experience you value. I have one friend like that. I have only one. I trust him, and I trust him because I have tested his intellect and his commitment to our friendship over years. And so sometimes I will ask him what he thinks of something that I am about to do. But whatever he says, as much as I respect him, I don't take it as sacrosanct. It is not God's word. I consider his advice, I weigh it, and then in the end, I decide what I want to do. Similarly, I'm always watching videos like this. I'm reading books. I'm seeking knowledge. I'm seeking wisdom. But I never substitute my agency for anybody or anything that anybody says from outside. Not at this stage of my life. I take all things in perspective and then I apply the things that have merit and I discard others. Sometimes I discard everything altogether. But if you haven't developed negative capability, you will keep running to authorities, to so-called authorities and to mentors, thinking that they know more than you do in all areas. Meanwhile, you probably know more than they do in some areas. In fact, you do ni kini in some areas. You do ni. It is not that you probably do. You do. I tell my proteges these days, the young men and young ladies that I'm raising, as I try to grow them in this concept of eventual independence, not to always lean on me. I tell them that the people who mentored me, I can confidently tell you now that there are areas of their lives where I can now give them solid and practical advice with all due respect to their seniority and the relationship that existed between us previously. I can give them better advice than they can ever give themselves in some areas. Baba ni baba ń jẹ́ lọ́jọ́kọ́jọ́, baba ni baba ọmọ jẹ́, but ọmọdé náà dàgbà. Ẹyin ni ó sì di àkùkọ, ibi tágbàlagbà bá tẹgun sí ibẹ̀ lọ́mọdé bá. Because Alhaji Sikiru Ayinde Barrister, Alhaji Agba, the late Phenom, he was in his late 20s or his early 30s when he sang Òkè àgbà ni mo gùn yí ẹ mọ̀ jẹ́ ń jábọ́, ẹ bá tún pé kí n gbọ́ o. Òkè àgbà ni mo gùn yí ẹ mọ̀ jẹ́ ń jábọ́. He was in his late 20s, I wager. The second mountain and becoming an elder is not a strictly chronological function. It's not just a function of age, though that is often the reality in most cases. It's a function of what you've been through in life, the experiences you've been through, especially suffering, and the wisdom that you've been able to distill, maintain, and own from those unique experiences that are yours. And then finally, and I will leave it here for today, even though there are other important reasons, more and more reasons why you should develop negative capability. Finally, if you don't develop negative capability, and this is perhaps all the reasons are important, so there is no more important reason. I was about to say this is perhaps the most important reason, but it's equally as important as all the other reasons. Take them all. If you don't get comfortable with being in the wilderness and not knowing what comes next, and you insist on resolving everything into definite articles that you can now act upon, your mind and your own emotions will start cannibalizing your sanity. Your mind will start playing tricks on you. You will almost start running yourself insane. Because you will wake up on some days and you will think you'll finally figure it out. You will wake up and say, yes, I finally get it. I am supposed to be a pastor or a lawyer or an accountant, or I'm supposed to leave my wife or leave my husband. I'm supposed to stop that relationship, break up with that person, or I'm supposed to quit my job and start that business. You'll be very excited. You will think you have it figured out. And that excitement and that high will carry you for 2 or 3 days. But by the 4th day, you are going to wake up and the deepest depression you have had in a long time is going to hit you. Your mind is going to unravel and poke holes in everything that made you happy for the previous 3 or 4 days. All those things you thought you figured out. Whatever you thought you resolved in the past 3 or 4 days, your mind is going to spend just a few minutes tearing all of it up, tearing it up and dragging it down. And you will spend the next 3 days, the next 4 days in depression. Not clinical depression, of course. If you're dealing with clinical depression, please see a licensed therapist or a medical professional. I'm talking of that overwhelming frustration of not knowing. If you insist on resolving everything and you don't develop negative capability, you're going to keep going from highs to lows. High today, low tomorrow. Is why King Sunny Ade sang, tó bá ro ọ̀rọ̀ ara ẹ wò, ayé á sú ẹ, nígbà mìíràn ayé á dùn mọ́ ẹ, ò bá ṣeun tó fẹ́ ṣe o kò yé ronú mọ́. Sometimes when you think about the matters of your life, you will be so excited and so happy. Then the next minute, the next day, you are down, you are depressed and you are deflated. And the cycle continues. He says forget all of that. Stop thinking or stop overthinking. Stop trying to resolve everything. Just do what is in front of you. And while you're doing it, dance, enjoy, let's groove together. By the way, that track is called Oremi on the 1984 album. Yeah, 1984, I think. It's called Aura, A-U-R-A. You can find it on YouTube. So that's it. time will sort you out. But time works best when you work with it. When we work with time, managing the season with negative capability and learning the lessons we need, the development of character, the building the credibility that we will need for our purpose, and serving faithfully in whatever capacity life has placed us presently, even if it seems far removed from our ultimate destiny and where we thought we were going. This wilderness, this season of confusion you're in, this disorientation, it is not a punishment, it's preparation, it's not punishment. And just as the second generation of Israelites who learned their lessons eventually made it to the promised land, so you will make it to the second mountain in the fullness of time with the credibility and the wisdom and the lessons necessary to carry the weight of your true purpose. All of this is to train your shoulders, as Darius Daniel said, is to train you for the weight of your coming purpose. If you go right now, it will destroy you. You won't be able to handle your glory that is coming. So dance with not knowing. Dance with being in a place where you don't know. Dance with it. Play with it. Dance with it. Let it soothe you. Let that confusion, dance with the confusion. Don't frustrate yourself. And remember, your greatest truths lie within you. Inú ẹni lòdodo ẹni. Tó bá ro ọ̀rọ̀ ara ẹ wò, ayé á sú ẹ. Nígbà mìíràn, ayé á dùn mọ́ ẹ. Ò bá ṣe ohun tó fẹ́ ṣe kò yé ronú mọ́, kó túnra mú, kó gbáradì, kó jẹ́ àmújó. Ìjòyà. Ìjòyà. Ìjó ti yá o. Pàmúrògodó, múrògo ló bá mi. Pàmúrabàtì, múrabàtì bàbá. Ọ̀rẹ́ mi bá mi lálejò, n ó ti ṣèyí sí. Kì í jẹyán, kì í jẹ̀rẹsì, àfẹ́ràn ọpọlọ. Múso ní o múso ní o Ó ga gan. I'll see you on the next one.